Martin. Welcome to episode 87 of Illuminating Rounds. How are you doing?
Hello, Dave. Yeah, pretty good. Thank you very much. Yeah, I did. We had my stepmother passed away last week. It's delayed us putting out this video a little bit, hasn't it? But yeah. No, I'm fine. Other than that.
Yeah, and she was not. We're going to talk about her a little bit later, but she was 93.
She was 94 in a few weeks' time.
Right.
So yeah, very, very. So I think she was born in like 1930 or something like that, which is difficult to kind of get your head around the amount of time, the kind of historical period that her life spanned.
Right. Well, our condolences to you, and I hope you're all okay. We are going to. So after we're going to talk about her, but we're going to talk about what we've been up to this week, and also a first, I believe, in the ASL world.
I'm so proud to be part of this, Dave.
This is a big deal. This is, when they look back, they might write books about this. I don't know, but we're excited to talk about that. In
like
terms of
Bill and Ted, when they're in the future, they're famous in the future.
Yeah,
yeah.
This is us. We don't know. We are in the shadows of, like, the great inventors and the great pioneers. And we are also now part of that. I'm proud of it. Right. So I was at Punched, the convention for Wargaming, last weekend. It's my first real Wargames convention I've been to that isn't ASL. In fact, it's quite weird to see like one copy of a starter kit sitting tucked away in a corner, no one touching it. And I went down there with Simon Taylor, who's obviously a friend from our ASL days. And we played Paths of Glory, which Paths of Glory is incredible. I'm going to get you to play Paths of Glory. Paths of Glory is an incredible game. It's completely different to ASL. There's absolutely no similarities at all. But it is an amazing game. And you talked about the fact that you wanted to explore a few different types of games, and this isn't really the place to talk about that. It's like talking about your lovers at your wedding. We can't really do this, but it is quite it's incredible. The number of different games that were there. There was Andy Smith was there as well, another ASL player from years ago that I used to play, and he was playing this game. I think it was Death Ride Kursk, but and he was part of a big multiplayer team, and there was maybe at least a 6 foot square board with maybe 400 counters on it, and he'd been playing for at least sort of 6 or 7 hours, and we asked him how he was getting on. And his counters weren't even on the board yet. He was still waiting to bring them on. It's so sometimes we think ASL is crazy. There is
crazier.
There is crazier, and we're all crazy in our each other's minds. What was really good to do was to like how if you spend any time abroad, or you spend time with people who have come over from different country, and you talk to them about how they perceive the country that you live in to them. So I remember doing this with some Germans who come over, like, tell me the stereotypes and this, and they didn't want to do it. They were a bit shy to tell us, just do your worst. And he was like, well, we think you'll go to the pub, and you're quite hardworking, but you stop at 5 and you go to the pub and all this stuff. So you ride on buses, and I was like, okay, doesn't like, and you eat fish and chips. That was the general thing. But I was talking to these war gamers about ASL, like, what do you think of ASL? What's your view of it?
Yeah.
And they were all, almost all of them were basically, it's too many rules, it's too complicated for me. And they are playing games that I think are more complex. I mean, Paths of Glory, for example, is I would argue just as complex as ASL in terms of the complexity. Clearly nowhere near his number of rules, but that's in terms of, like, when you're sitting down trying to work out what move to do, you have a good number of move options to make, and it's quite hard to weigh them all up because of the strategic nature of it, whereas ASL is very much more tactical. And there's although there's strategy, in as much as we would talk about strategy, it's really all about the tactics of the battlefield. It's about, okay, do I need my my tank on the left hand side or the right hand side? But it's very little. You don't often get the very big picture that some of these games provide.
It's interesting in terms of the amount of investment of time to learn the system. The thing about Advanced Squad Leader is that once you've learned the system, you can play games indefinitely, can't you? Until you're sick of the whole system, which happens to us all from time to time.
Yep.
Paths of Glory, presumably, you'd really enjoy playing that 2 or 3 times or whatever, and then you've got to relearn the rules to another game. I guess that's the
Yeah, I think
difference.
that's fair. I think so. Gerard, for example, plays an awful lot of
Yeah.
Paths of Glory, and he says he's played about 100 games and has
Oh,
basically now has understood it to the point where he gets it and can
Yeah.
play very competitively. But and that's kind of where the challenge becomes a little bit like chess at a very, very high level, where you know the game inside out, but now you're just about the
Because you've got the random element with the cards.
That's
every
right.
game is different, so there's skill every time. It's not just like I know this is the best move.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And there's absolutely, like, where we complain about ASL and luck, that's perhaps its biggest complaint, I think, the luck element. With Paths of Glory and other card-driven war games, often what happens is you can kind of manipulate your deck a little bit to try to stack the deck, if you like, as you go further forward. And I think that's quite an interesting thing. So although there is definitely luck in there, you definitely have a greater control of what your luck looks like in the later game. But I mean, there's still dice rolls, and it's much more extreme dice rolls. So, for example, like I guess like ASL with a tank combat, but we're talking about armies, for example, and 2 bad results, for example, that go against you. You can lose 1/10 of your world force, for example, in 2 dice rolls. I mean, it's now you can get them back, and there's ways of, but it's very interesting. So, but anyway, we definitely should play that at some point. But yeah, so interesting to see not one game ASL go on, even in the corner. It's really relegated to its own kind of tournaments these days. ASL, which is.
I actually mentioned it to a wargamer, and he said, "Oh wow, there's still people playing that."
Oh really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. We also played Terraforming Mars, just a completely different, which was a great.
Very vibe.
Yeah, exactly. And a little war game called 300 as well, which was quite a nice little kind of very, very small, like 10 cubes each almost, kind of fleets and a cube and a little few cards. But yeah, it was very, very good. So good time, and yeah, hope to go again, and maybe we can bring you along next year.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. So you were going to talk to us about your stepmom.
Yeah, so obviously there's a World War II connection. So I thought I'd mention. So she grew up. So she was born in 1913. She grew up in the Docklands in London, which kind of different today, but in those days it was a very sort of deprived area. I've actually been to the house she grew up in. That doesn't exist now. It was a very small, dark, 2 up, 2 down, but they only lived downstairs. So they only had the sort of 2 rooms downstairs. Her father was a docker in the docks, and she wasn't evacuated. She was 10 years old in 1940 when the Blitz began, and she hadn't been evacuated because her parents didn't want her to go away. So she's the only kid in the street, 10 years old, and the siren's gone off, and they've gone off before. But this time, she even sees the little black dots on the horizon. This is the night of the 7th to the 8th of September 1940, the night that the Luftwaffe switched its attention from the RAF, attacking the RAF bases, to attacking London. And the target of that raid was the docks, the Docklands, where she lived. Her father used to unload sugar from the ships he worked for Tate and Lyle. He used to literally greatly carry these sacks and stuff like that. So obviously, so she has, they go down into a shelter, and the bombs are raining down, and they come out in the morning, and like loads of the place has been virtually destroyed. Her house was okay. They go down to the wharfs, and Tate and Lyle is on fire, and she said there was rivers of molten sugar flowing out of the building into the Thames. And they moved away. Okay, so I think they went and stayed with an aunt on the outskirts of London, which also got bombed frequently. So she didn't completely escape it. But she told just the most kind of brilliant account of that little piece of history. And I guess her passing away is, just sort of symptomatic of how the generation that have any memory at all of that enormous conflict are, of course, leaving us one by one, aren't they, all around the world?
Absolutely.
Just thought it really brought that story alive.
Yeah.
What it's like when, your European neighbours go to war against each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we got a picture of her there, and
yes,
we'll dedicate this episode to her.
She's older than 10 in the picture, I think.
She is, and that's your daughter a few years ago as well.
It was probably about 10, not quite 10, perhaps 7 or 8 years ago, or something like that. Yeah.
Right. Excellent. Nice. Well, she'll be
Incidentally,
missed.
she never really forgave Germans, which like we used to kind of like tell her not to
Hmm.
be naughty. You know, she
Hmm.
was being racist, really, but she never really forgave them. But I guess you have to imagine what it's like as a child when hating the enemy is seen as a virtue as you're growing up. Um, I still would have liked her to have been a little bit bigger spirited, 50 years on or something. But she did. My dad told me there was a really interesting time where they went to Germany and they had a taxi, and they were in Hamburg. So they were in a city that was very heavily bombed. And the taxi driver was a similar age to her, and they started exchanging stories. And of course, they had so much in common because they're both children under these kind of like terrible kind of like sort of blitz conditions. It would have been much worse in Hamburg, I suspect, than it was in London even. But so yeah, there was a
Yeah.
little moment there of reunion with the
Nice.
enemy. Perhaps.
Nice. Yeah. I think I've told this story before. I went to a stag do maybe 20 years ago in Frankfurt, and there was a guy, an old guy, sitting at a bar, and he'd heard that we were English. He asked if we were English, and he told me he was a submarine sailor in the war, and he was apologetic. And I said,
Yeah.
obviously you got nothing to apologise for me about. You did what you needed to do. That's. And I ended up buying him a drink, and I couldn't help feeling like, was that just a way to get a drink? I wasn't convinced. But anyway, I forgave him.
Yeah.
Not that I've got
Yeah.
any right to do any of that, but I kind of felt it was the right thing to do. We're on a stag do after all. We were ruining his city. I mean, that was that. Right.
You were outnumbered. Yeah.
We were outnumbered. That's very true. Okay, so what have we been up to? We have been talking to Chat GPT. Obviously, this is the kind of the trend over the last few months. Now, I don't think anybody is not aware of what Chat GPT is and can do. But for those that aren't sure, it's a language AI model. In theory, it doesn't have what people call general intelligence. It doesn't have the ability to think for itself, if you like. But effectively, it does. I mean, we can converse with this tool as if it was a fairly competent person in whatever you want to talk about. And so that gave me the idea of asking it to come up with an ASL scenario. And this was spurned on because previously I'd been asking for rules stuff, and in general ChatGPT doesn't do too bad against or coming up with rules. And so there was a couple of tricky little rules. The trouble is with ChatGPT, it does have this ability to hallucinate sometimes, and it hallucinates very vividly. So sometimes it goes off on a little tangent and will tell me rules that clearly aren't in ASL, but it's very, very convincing. It is like a drunk friend, a coherent drunk friend in the night telling you something that clearly didn't happen, but absolutely believes it did. And so you have to be a little bit wary of that. However, as I've pointed out, has been pointed out, we're on ChatGPT 4 at the moment. And so, when we get to ChatGPT 13, 14, 15, it's going to be phenomenal. I mean, this already, the writing is on the wall for so many jobs and so many parts of our life. I mean, whether or not, whether you believe that authors will have a job very soon or whether or not poets, I mean, it's crazy. And I think, certainly we talked before about, well, maybe the arts will always be safe from AI. Maybe the AI will do all the mathsy jobs and the physical labor maybe, but the arts will always be reserved for humans. And we're seeing things like Midjourney, the AI that can generate images and things, generate images that you literally cannot tell the difference between whether a human or an AI has taken a photograph. And there's a couple of I'll put one up on the screen now about a lemon meringue pie and trying to decide which one is the real one and which one is the computer generated one. Things like that it's just phenomenal, and it's happening so quickly. And I think the other thing really was to talk about is that everybody inside the industry always underestimates how quickly technology will come along. And so, for example, if you talk to taxi drivers 15 years ago about whether something like Uber would come along or whether sat navs would become prevalent in everybody's cars, they generally would say, it won't do because XYZ, it can't do this or it can't do that. But very quickly, there's disruptors, and ChatGPT is one of those disruptors. So I asked it to create an ASL scenario. I didn't give it any parameters at all, and I'm going to put the chat that ChatGPT and I had up on the screen so you can pause it and you can read it and see kind of how the conversation went. And based on that information, excuse me, based on that information, I generated a scenario. So it wasn't too hard to take the content that ChatGPT had come up with and actually given as a scenario. So we're going to play that through. You and I played it. So we believe we're the first people ever to play an AI generated scenario. Maybe we're not. Maybe someone can let us know that we didn't. So Operation Iron Fist was the ChatGPT's suggestion.
And they came up with the title.
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely everything is ChatGPT. And this is taking place in Sicily. Again, all designed by ChatGPT. So this is the map. We have British against the Germans, and we have 3 victory points effectively to take, and the British have to take 2 of them to win. So the 3 victory points are the bridge in the top board here. We have the town centre, which is this building considered here, and we have 2 of the 3 hills in the bottom board. And the British come on with a whole bunch of first line squads with machine guns. They have some Piats as well, and they come on with 2 carriers, 2 carrier 2s, and there's a tank force that comes on the south as we look at it, kind of thing.
And I can't help thinking that seems kind of quite creative, because the obvious thing would be to have them coming on the same side, unless it's literally just randomized it.
I mean, yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows how these designers work? These scenario designers. Now you have on your side. I can't show you because they're all concealed on my side. But you have a bunch of I think first line and second line Germans, and you have a hidden anti-tank gun. You have a hidden mortar, a large mortar, and you have 1 Panzer III. Is it? I can't remember. It's a Panzer.
I think it's a Panzer IV.
Panzer IV.
Yeah.
Which is on board somewhere. Well, we know it's probably here. And you are able to hit 3 squads. And again, this is all ChatGPT's kind of coming up with.
There's no Panzerfaust, but there is a Panzer Schreck.
That's right. Now, the interesting thing here is we've got 10 turns. Now, it originally suggested 15 turns, and I kind of pushed back on it. Said, well, 15 is probably too long for an ASL scenario. Let's knock it down to 10. But what that did was gave us a very different paced game. And so, as opposed to from being like a real Schwerpunk style, very fast, let's go for it kind of thing. This is what we got. So we played the scenario through, and we had a good time, didn't we? We had a good time. So
we did. Yeah. Do you know? I really appreciated the slower pace.
Yeah.
Yeah. You had to kind of felt like you needed to gain certain objectives so you could like launch the next phase. It was interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. It did feel also quite old school. So there was like you had a lot of machine guns it generated.
Yeah.
You start off by destroying my first squad with, I think it was a 3 KIA or some ridiculous thing. It wasn't the first time you're going to get big KIAs in this scenario. So I'm losing guys and getting broken already, and already realizing that this is quite a tough entrance here. So we push on with the carriers, and then the tanks are coming on here on the ground, down the. And I know that you've got some hip guys down here, but it's a case of, well, where are we going to find them?
Yeah.
And what's going to happen? Are you worried at this point? Are you?
So I mean, I'm sort of relatively happy that your moving on board has been relatively small in distance. I mean, it's not been a very nothing dramatic has happened. I mean, you lost the half squad, didn't you? But
I think
I'm
full squad,
really
but yeah,
happy that it's a slowish entrance. I'm kind of excited because I think I'm going to be able to kill a tank or 2.
Yep.
You've
got that great kill stack on the level 2.
Yeah, but
guns.
you've got a kill stack preparing, haven't you, to kind of counter it?
Yeah. We see the wire on the bridge, and this is one of the instances where we had to take a little bit of kind of guidance from ChatGPT. So it suggested, for example, that there was sappers on both sides, and therefore there would be wires and fortifications, and so we kind of, we estimated what you would actually get from that. And in instances like it didn't think to tell us the SAN and the ELR numbers, but as you can see from the conversation I put up earlier, just by asking, okay, well, what should the SAN numbers and the ELR numbers be, and it generated, accurate-ish numbers for each.
Yeah.
So what's interesting is to know, whether this is a playable scenario, whether we could have recognised that this was not a human design scenario.
I don't think I would have recognised it was not human construct, especially after you've done like the little adjustments that were necessary, like the fortifications and stuff like that. But that's stuff that GPT can learn, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in theory, the ChatGPT model has been taken since up to about 2021, I think, and it's a static model. So, although it will learn in your conversation things, it won't. It's got a kind of limited kind of scope for what you've told it that it can call upon as well. So again, this is one of the things. So anyway, we found your anti-tank gun.
Yeah.
It turns up, and obviously I've parked with my backside towards it. I wasn't sure whether you'd put the gun on either side. I wasn't, so it was a case of, well, whichever's.
It's a way of finding out where it is, isn't it?
It is. I certainly did. So you've taken one out, but I think, okay, that's okay. Your to kill is something like 14 or something. Yeah. And I've got 11 armor there. Yeah. So, I'm like, well, what's the worst that can happen there? Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
you're very vulnerable from the rear, aren't you? But
yeah, the British are coming across the river. Yeah. And this is going okay. I think this is
and you're doing a very good job of finding sort of little ways of sort of sneaking across without taking too many shots.
Right, exactly. I should point out we're on the new version of Vassal now, which has got smaller dice. Very rarely do we get a worse feature, but that's a shame that we've gone back to small.
Also, it occurs to me that both dice are white on the
chat window.
On the thing. Yeah, the chat window. Yeah,
which is. Okay, so your tank. Yeah, your tank is coming flying around. So of course we spin and miss.
There's
another hip unit pops up here. Of course I'm crew exposed and
of course there's no anti-tank magnetic mines or anything like that.
Right. But your mortar pops up and now we're going to intensify the gun, and we get what we thought was a shock, and then we forgot to apply the range modifier to the to kill. So
it's actually an immobilise.
That's right, exactly. So we're going to immobilise that.
I really made a mistake with that tank. It should have fired at you from a distance. From a range, I think it's much more of an advantage. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Both your guys jump into close combat, and you get me on the second squad.
Second one.
Yeah.
And of course, the other tank has been hit with the anti-tank gun. I think I can't remember what I rolled, but
you got the double one. You went for APCR and got the double one, didn't you?
Right. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So that was him burning. But I mean, it's okay. I've still got another tank left. it's all right.
The thing is, you've now got one tank to try and control two locations.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Which is definitely tricky. So here's a great move here. The carrier drops some smoke dispensers here.
Very nice.
And then we realise that it's 1943. They don't have smoke. It's only 1944.
Genius.
So that goes away. But I do manage to pass the bog check and clear the wire off the bridge, which is quite nice.
Guys, again, going forward, sort of, cautiously.
Yes. Bring the carrier around. Decide that the carrier's got to do some more work.
Yeah.
This way round. And I'm thinking if I can just get around the back of these guys, then they're might struggle to break. And
And I am already thinking about trying to pull back.
Right.
I don't think I do much at this turn, actually.
That's right. Yeah. So, and the beauty is, turn 3 of 10. I mean, we've got plenty of time.
Yeah.
But you are quite strong. You are quite strong.
Yeah.
You've got see the 3 squads that are down here now are able to come into the town centre, and are able to do that. And what was interesting about this is, whilst we're chatting about this scenario, we start saying things like, maybe the plan here is that I should be bringing these tanks straight up the left-hand side and ignore the hills. Maybe that's the trick to this scenario, as if there's been some kind of
human mind was working it out. It's really interesting. There's no way I would know that this was not produced by a human.
Right. So we bring the
now you're going for a hill. Is that the plan here?
This is me trying to sort the mortar out. So I'm not interested in the in the thing, because I figure that I'm just not going to get there. You'll be able to do something, and I don't think I can control.
This is my other hip in L6.
Right.
So
yes, it's come alive and
so that's got the Panzerfaust. Of course, you don't know that yet.
Right.
In the game.
Right.
Panzerschreck. Sorry.
So now here's where we get a little bit loose with hit
I think we're okay at this stage. It's later on that we forget. When we played this, like I said, I was absolutely not able to concentrate on anything. But I think this at this point we're okay. We're playing by the proper rules. It's later.
So I forget. Because there's a 4 there that you hit, and we get a break and a pin, which is fine.
I mean, this is the most ridiculously successful anti-tank gun in history. I mean, look at that. Look at the range, and it's just able to get a shot in. Yeah.
This is quite impressive. So we push forward. We're okay here.
Yeah.
Now, one of the interesting things about playing a scenario that nobody else has even seen is, are people even invested in this? Because it's very hard. Now we're gonna publish this in as part of the pack. We're gonna tidy it up. We're gonna do a little bit more tweaking of it, and we'll publish it with due credit to ChatGPT, of course.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to know whether, like, playing a scenario like this that's never been seen before, do people, it's a bit like telling someone your dream. I think sometimes people kind of nod a little bit, like, okay, well, it's fine. It doesn't really affect me.
Yes.
So because they don't have the ability to play it right now, and it's but playing it was absolutely fine, wasn't it? You scrounged.
It played really well, I thought. And it kind of surprised me by being quite interesting.
Yeah.
Here you see I'm struggling here with. I think I should have pulled back a little bit before struggling. I'm going on to the crest status on the right-hand side, and the guys retreating from the K10. Can you see these?
Yeah.
The guys retreating from there obviously can't go in there now. This isn't safe.
Yes.
It's just a little bit. I'm really a little bit too late, which means I'm not going to have a lot of force in that hex there, the stone building.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is really where the key battle is going to be. If I can take this M1 building kind of block, but it's very, very well defended. So that's the challenge for me, really.
And I'm also planning to fall back from it.
Yes. Yeah, into the victory location, presumably.
Exactly. Yeah. And all of a sudden, actually having the heavy and the medium upstairs it begins to be problematic as well.
So I just come along to try and just this little carrier got a nice little rate of fire. Managed to do something, pin this guy, and then break the Panzerschreck, and now he's just going to come and annoy him for a little while, and then try and take the mortar on is the plan.
Yeah.
So this is the first carrier's attempt, but you're going to see him from the heavy or the medium's going to see him.
Yeah.
But we push into this building, push into the second building, and recombine the kill stack. You destroy the carrier, the machine gun to kill, and it feels difficult now for the British to push across here. I lose a whole bunch of guys to what killed these guys? Was it the heavy? Wasn't it? Was it the heavy? I can't remember. No, it wasn't the heavy. Something. Maybe the.
Oh, it was just the light machine gun from over here.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
No, they can't.
Oh, no. That doesn't have line of sight.
I can't remember what it was. Something saw them and did
Yeah.
something. Oh, I think they routed back. I think they've routed back. I think that's what's happened. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, they were hit here by they were hit by the light machine gun. Then
Yeah, because they were in that hex.
that's right.
That's right.
Yeah. Jump into close combat here. What can go wrong?
Yep.
So you kill the half squad. The two squads are left. Interesting. We did check this rule. So yeah, you can't fire the medium machine gun from crest status.
That's right. Yeah.
So we did this. Now you're prepping there, and you don't have a great prep fire phase here with this machine gun.
No.
Meanwhile, I think I've broken some stuff up here. Have I yet? I'm not sure. I'm not yet. It's coming. Your guys are bringing.
No, you haven't yet.
Yeah, you pull these guys back, which is nice.
I'll start bringing a couple of people down the stairs.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm trying to figure out here how to, what we can do, but it's all looking a bit tricky. What's happening now? So back up to the thing. Oh, we both half squad each other in the close combat,
which keeps the melee going. So I'm reasonably happy about that.
Yeah. But I managed to get some smoke here. This is quite nice.
That was a really nice move, actually. Yeah.
So I smoked the heavy machine gun, and I'm pretty pleased with that because I think, okay, if I can get this area here. Yeah. However, you decimate this guy. Another KIA here. These guys jump in, and now at this point, I'm actually.
I thought I was about to fall apart.
Yeah, you definitely made noises like it's all over.
Yeah.
So we look at what we've got coming in here. 3 squads.
The thing is, I've got a good shot here. That's looking good. Exactly. This is going to be plus a million.
Yeah. And so you've got so your medium does this one here, breaks these both guys.
Yeah.
And then the heavy is going to start firing and just keeps rate forever.
Yeah. And although it's +5, it still seems to be able to make some headway.
There's a whole bunch of rate of fires there. And
the only one that's left, I think, in the end is pinned, isn't he? So he can't even get into the stone building.
Yeah, exactly. And then we look at the what's happened here. We've broken two of the 3 mediums.
Malfunction them. Yeah.
And then we have.
Now this is, I think, where we possibly get the rules. We make a mistake with.
I think we suddenly thought it was 6s to hit instead of. I think it should have been 4s.
It should have been 4s. Yeah.
And this anti-tank gun is just going to town on this hex.
Yeah.
So that's all looking a bit grim. You pull back here. I do finally win the melee. With a leader, but at that point, we decide that the Germans will have enough to hold onto this area here, which will mean I can't get into this area, and we call it there. And there was plenty of play left. I mean, there was still four turns in here that we could have played through. But I mean, I don't
even think it's impossible for you to have won it.
I think with the three or so squads coming up to defend this victory.
That's true.
Here.
That's true. Yeah.
I think it was.
It was because they're gonna. That's right. They can hunker down right in there, can't they? And I'm pulling the guys on the right flank back because you've got another road to cross. I mean, you're never going to make enough progress on that side, are you?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. It was a good call, but it was a very interesting scenario.
And to be fair, when we first looked at it, we kind of thought, well, maybe the British look like it's got a bit of an easy job here because it's only 2 of the 3, and if I win the bottom battle, that's part of it. So the big question, really, I mean, we don't care about that scenario. That's a great. We had a good time playing it, and in theory, we could have done that with a DYO. There's obviously rules in ASL for
absolutely
credit, and our own imagination could have come up with that. So where do you think this leaves scope for AI generated scenarios?
It's the same as everything else, isn't it? I mean, you could say, look, I like things created by humans, but you're presented with 2 pieces of music, and you might not know which is, you enjoy the music, and then you're told afterwards that it's created by AI. I think this is what could happen very, very easily in the near future with a scenario. Absolutely.
Do you think I think we're a long way away from having an AI that we can, for example, throw the rule book at and say, now play a game and now balance
Yeah,
a scenario. I think
yeah,
that's a fair way off. Although again, maybe it's only 2 years away. I don't know,
yeah, yeah.
but I would imagine it's a long way off. Um,
I mean, it struggles with the rules, doesn't it, as it
yes,
stands?
yeah.
Yeah, it struggles to understand them because it's not in an English that it's not in an English that I understand most of the time, is it? You know, so
Well, I think it's not that it's the rules per se. I think
Mm,
it's the training data it's been given. It
yeah,
sometimes will confuse maybe other games with
yeah,
ASL.
yeah,
So, for example, it will say things like, I think we asked, do you mark an OBA, a person with OBA that's fired with a prep fire counter or something like that? And it
mm,
said things like, the choice of whether to prep fire or not is a very interesting one. However, prep fire is always given as an opportunity if you want to move and not shoot, and it gets a little bit, gets itself into a little bit of confusion every now and again, depending on
yeah.
what you ask and things.
There's one problem with, I suppose, one obvious problem with AI created in this format anyway. And although this has managed to create an interesting game that we enjoyed playing, it isn't historical. I mean, it's got a pretense of being historical because it's set in Sicily on a
Right.
certain date. But
Yeah.
I mean, have you checked the history? Is there any?
Yeah. No, there is. Yeah, there is. It's
Oh,
reasonably good. So
okay.
yeah, let me just.
It's probably as good as most designers in terms of that we you know designers tend to take quite a lot of liberties with the history. It's
Right.
probably perhaps it's just as good. Yeah.
I mean, this is the okay. So this is literally the description that ChatGPT came up with for this scenario.
Yeah.
As part of the Allied invasion of Sicily, codenamed Operation Husky, the British Eighth Army is tasked with capturing the strategic town of Agera. The town is heavily fortified and defended by the German 15th Panzer Grenadier
Mm.
Division.
Yeah.
The British 5th Infantry Division, supported by elements of the 4th Armoured Brigade, must break through the German defences and secure the town to ensure the continued advance of the 8th Army.
That's
That's
pretty good, isn't it? And that's real history, isn't it? So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's pretty good.
So
I mean, we don't know if they had like 3 tanks coming from a different direction.
no,
I suppose
no, no,
things like that. I mean, it may be, but I doubt that it's got that level of
no. Absolutely, I agree.
historicity. Yeah.
And again, that's a big turn off for many players. So this is
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
step beyond that, because not
Yeah. Yeah.
only
Yeah.
is this an ahistorical scenario, although it in theory could have happened,
Yeah.
it's almost like, sometimes when someone has designed it, they may have read a book and they may not have got the right forces correct, but they've got a very good idea. Well, on this day this battle happened,
Yeah.
even though it's not. Whereas, I don't believe this is based on a particular battle. This
Sure. Yeah.
is very indicative of it.
Yeah.
Also, the other interesting thing was that ChatGPT didn't like trying to design this kind of stuff. It felt like it was breaking its own terms and conditions and was flagging itself for potentially harmful text.
You're right.
No, just harmful text. So it thought that maybe because it's talking about guns and battles and this, that, and the other, and death or something.
Yeah.
So it kind of said, "Oh, if you want me to report this kind of stuff, if this is inappropriate language, let me know." It was, but so yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't be. I mean, it would be, but it wouldn't be a huge amount of work, relatively speaking, to add a button on a website that you click or you crank a handle and out comes an ASL scenario. I mean, it really wouldn't be.
Yeah. I mean, you imagine going to a tournament and I don't know, just pressing your tablet or something
Yeah.
like that, and a scenario is generated.
Yeah, yeah. And that brings up the question about, like, we've talked before about how scenario designers don't get paid enough, playtesters don't get paid enough.
They're not going to get paid anything, are they?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of hundreds of, perhaps thousands of different jobs that could be in jeopardy.
Yeah.
What surprises me is there's a creative element to this, and I never really thought that AI would be competing in creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, drive a car. It can do that. Maybe make clothing and stitch it really accurately and stuff like that. All that stuff can be done.
Yeah.
But it's actually able to be quite creative.
That's right.
Really
That's right.
Yeah.
So where do you see this technology in 5 years' time in board gaming in general? Do you see AI? How do you see it?
Do you know, I'm not sure I've got a considered opinion, because really these ideas are being introduced to me by you as we talk. I suspect you've got, I don't know, perhaps more considered opinions. What do you think?
I think personally, I think that it won't be long before the hottest toy of the year will be the equivalent of an Alexa type thing running around with a battery that it can go away and charge itself, with a screen and with an interface that you can talk to with a ChatGPT. And
Yeah.
that technology is almost available. I mean, it's available in my vacuum cleaner right now. It goes around
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
and,
yeah, yeah.
and it does that.
I already find Alexa a bit limiting.
Yeah.
It's very, very clearly it's not a natural conversation with it that you could potentially have with a proper AI, is it? It knows certain words and things like that, but it doesn't really have a proper
Right.
language understanding.
Mm-hmm.
This will be amazing. There's no doubt that this technology is going into a robot that you can love and have run around the house, kind of thing.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I think, well, okay, at that point, when can we feed in a rule book to it and have it be an opponent for any game you want? That can't
Yeah.
be
Can't be that long away, can it?
No, it
And
really can't.
and that's great, because that opens up lots of opportunities, but it also potentially limits kind of the interaction, the kind of being forced to go out and find an opponent. And we already do, partly because we do it on Vassal, but at least you are playing with a real person and you talk to them and stuff like that. Like computer games have done this, haven't they? When we used to play in the street together or whatever, and you play at home and you can play against a computer, or you can play talking to friends or whatever. This is, it's going to happen, isn't it? Where you can play ASL at home.
Yeah.
Against something that feels sort of human-like.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And the thing is do you think that it will replace? Do you think it will replace the need for an opponent? Do you think that what's your view on that? Do you think?
I think it will completely replace the need for it. I think that people hopefully will still seek out human opponents, because I don't know. I'm trying to say humans are more interesting, but that's not guaranteed, is it?
Right. Yeah.
I think it ultimately it will definitely replace the need for a human opponent. Yeah.
Right. So we talked about the creativity aspect of it. I asked Midjourney, which is an AI generating image generator, to give me an image of something for your tabletop talks. Actually, that was what the plan was for. And I'm going to show you the picture. I wanted it basically to do with books and tanks. That was the kind of thing. Give me an image that I can give you some knowledge, but it's actually got some tanks with it. And here's the image that it came up with. I'll show you this image. It's incredible. And so this image is fully generated by AI. It's creative. It's clever. It's just bonkers, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, where are we going? I mean, yeah, definitely AI opponents. I can see. But the thing is that I don't think we get excited. Like we've played a bit of Second Front, and that was it's quite a good game, and we could go on about the fact that's got an AI opponent, and we don't really care about. We don't talk about it as being anything special. So the a lot of what we play ASFL for is the camaraderie, and it is the chat, and it is the ability to.
I mean, a really good AI that can give you a challenging game is one thing, and that perhaps is already with us, perhaps. But this is an AI that can tell you a joke potentially, that can that can comment on the weather, or offer you a cup of tea and run off and get one. That's the thing. That's what's different, isn't it? It is potentially going to be like being with a person.
Yeah, exactly.
I think robots ultimately will far the better than I did, or I don't know, those sorts of things. Those very, very human things.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes they're not very good jokes, by the way. So can you tell me a joke about World War II? He says, well, why don't scientists trust atoms from World War II? He says, because they're always split in history atoms.
Yeah, it's not a great joke.
That's not one that you're going to tell in the
I mean, they can program a better personality, can't
Okay.
they?
But here we go. Here's the second joke he's come up with. Okay. Why did the Scarecrow enlist in the army during World War II? Because he'd heard they were outstanding in their field. Now,
You're right. That's all right. I quite like that.
it's not terrible, is it?
It's not terrible. It's a clever joke because you can use that in for anything, couldn't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Would ChatGPT be able to learn all the jokes that it's ever had inputted, like from different people?
No, it creates them. It genuinely creates.
Wow.
It genuinely creates new stuff. So I think I've told this story a few times to other people, but there was a guy and he said to the ChatGPT, okay, from now on, you can only have one word answers. And ChatGPT wrote back, okay. And then he said, tell me a joke. And ChatGPT says, can't. And the guy said, try harder. And so he says, you can only say one word answers until I say the word banana. So ChatGPT says, okay, tell me a joke, can't. Try harder. So ChatGPT writes knock knock, but with a dash in between the knock knock. So maybe it gets away with that. And the guy says, who's there? And he says, banana. And the guy says, banana who? And then the ChatGPT says, as a language AI model, I'm programmed to think that you might understand this humor. This is kind of, it's a unique joke. It's completely, it's clever. It's so. I think there's all sorts of stuff that we're gonna learn. And what is really interesting is I find I am always saying please and thank you to it because you can't don't upset it before it takes over the world.
Dave, I say thank you to the cash machine. So.
That's very good. We are going to play Foreign Legion next, which is the scenario that Rob has done a great.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, great video for. So we definitely owe that scenario to play. It's a little bit of a larger one, so we're gonna take a couple of weeks to play it. In the meantime, if you have any thoughts, if you've played a ChatGPT scenario before, and if you've had one generated, if you want to take one and convert it and throw it around for us to have a look at, we can take a look at that. Incredible tool, incredible possibilities, really. I think for all sorts of stuff and scary stuff as well. I think that's the thing for me. Anything else, Martin, from your point of view?
Tournament. I was going to talk about the tournament a little bit. Yeah. So I think it's the end of this month is meant to be the cut off time. I know one game is finished because my game is finished. I don't know about anybody else. I presume people are pressing ahead.
Friday.
Friday, yeah. But we've also got the people who, because it was a knockout and it's still a knockout. So the actual tournament, as it will go ahead, but we've enabled a lot of extra games by, people who lost in the first round are playing each other as well. And I think everyone's said they're doing that. So I think there's going to be there's a lot of games going on out there. Hopefully.
Right.
Fascinating scenario. It's a fascinating scenario, I think. Yeah.
Okay. This is the one that we're playing. So this is Shotgun Alley.
This is
not Shotgun Shuffle. Sorry, Shotgun Shuffle.
Shotgun Shuffle. Yeah, that's right. I think it's a fascinating scenario. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, by all means, if anybody else has played it and wants to take a look at their scenario, that's absolutely fine. We'll do that. We are not far away from getting our some Mary Glees coming in. That's going to be possibly coming in a month or so's time. So we'll be looking forward to that. Mm-hmm. Other than that, we're all good. Condolences again to what was her name?
June.
So condolences to you and to a life well lived. And we'll catch up with you soon. All the best.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.